Alright. You have to do any official roll call?
No,
Just,
just
Just
a
workshop.
workshop.
okay, good.
So 6:30.
Okay, so after last meeting, we had adopted the option to make 2 cuts. The GA reduced and in lieu of health benefits, reduce that by 24,000. At the time, we did not have some wage comparison studies that we've taken from the surrounding towns, Elliott, North Berwick and Berwick, and we since got them back. So in doing that, we've looked at some of the salaries, and this is on the front page. So this is kind of housekeeping, but we have highway salt because the new price and the projection is that's probably not gonna cover it anyway, but we added $9,044 for, the part-time person that we hired for the clerk's office is gonna work a couple extra hours a week, or 6 extra hours a week, and do some social media stuff for us. Jay, the highway director's salary actually went down because we're making him exempt, and he's salary right now, so he's gonna be at 103, but we're gonna make him exempt, so he doesn't have that. The highway foreman, we had to adjust because with the 8.7% across the board, he was too close to the other employees. They're only $2 apart. Transfer station wages, because of the basis of cost of living went up, we had to adjust all their wages across the board by $1. The recreation director, we had to up her pay $4,600 to get her to even being close to the market. She was not even close. She's the lowest paid rec director in York County at this point. And the assistant director, same thing. The fire chief, we upped his for his full-time salary after I did an appraisal of all the chiefs in the area and their longevity. I didn't add in his longevity prior to this, which is 27 years. We adjust the health insurance benefits by 41,000. And the police lieutenant we had in there for 1,500. So those changes come to 49,939. Questions or thoughts or ideas? I didn't reprint the whole budget for you. I just put those out there. Those are just wage adjustments that we should put in the budget.
And just the transfer station, most of them are making 21 and 22, unless they're the director.
So that's really the change. So questions on the expense budget? No. So really what we're talking about is we're talking about pennies on the dollar, $49,000 pennies on the dollar at this point. So we went from just looking for the increase from what are the $49,000? And
I'm sorry, say that again.
just the increase for the,
This,
all right, so where were we at before we added that to it?
the ones everybody got originally. It was the exact same amount, less. Wait, where I am. That was 9,206,560.
All right, it's $9 million budget. So where do we go from here? You any questions on any of those changes? Do you want to talk about them? Do you?
Brings us from 5.2 to 5 up to 5.6.
Correct. Yeah. So I want to just remind everybody for a second, we're talking about the expense budget, right? Okay. The expense budget equates to taxes, but it's not the same increase. So people are gonna say, What do you mean my taxes are going up 5 point? No, that's not true. Well, there's a lot more pieces to this that we haven't got to yet. And we won't be able to. I'm only asking you, you've got to decide what you want to approve the expense budget. And there's a lot of other pieces that are gonna come into this, that have got to come into this for the next. So the next part we're gonna talk about is the crystal ball owl. That's projected out, it'll take us into August. And it's a strict projection, I can't tell you enough, it's not an accurate number. Okay. If you go to. The question we had the other night. Was, do we take $1 million from an undesignated, or do we take it, keep it at the 700,000? And how does that affect the rate? The only thing we're talking about is the mill rate adjustment, right? Because the mill rate is what people base their $1,000 per mill on to pay their taxes. This does not reflect whether or not the assessor adds a market adjustment. This is just what we can set, you as the council can control through the mill. Okay. So the question was from Councilor James, $1 million or not? Where do we go with it? So we looked into the crystal ball, put all the numbers into our statement tax calculation form. These are all hypotheticals. The first number on top is what you got to look at, the total taxable valuation of real estate. To get to that number, Verna starts in April and she doesn't finish till the end of April, so I don't really have an actual number. I asked Verna to very nicely, the assessor, I asked the assessor to the best she can guesstimate roughly. As low as she can, so she guesstimated a number. With that, we plug that in. As you go down through that table, we then plugged in what we assumed based on her number. The rest of the numbers 1 through 6 we plug in. The county tax, we have an assumed 5% number because that's what the county administrator told me. The municipal appropriation is the budget we're talking about you approving. The TIF financing is a kind of a shot in the dark, just kind of see where that goes. The local education appropriation is what the school told us they think they're gonna charge us. We add all that in. On the bottom, we put in a calculation, then it calculates from line 14 down for us. It starts adding our calculations together. And then tells us a minimum allowable, line 17 and 18, a minimum tax rate and a maximum tax rate. That's setting the mill rate, right? That's the mill rate number. Right now, our mill rate is $14.54 per thousand. So to get that, if you owned a $300,000 home, you times 0.01454 times your total, and that'll give you your taxes for the year, okay? If we, faced with the increase in new tax value, if we, on the first page, well, how much is this one?
Million. First one's going top right in red.
If you took the million out of undesignated surplus, you would be looking at a 5.69% increase. And by line 17 and 18, we have to have a minimum and a maximum number. We picked it somewhere in the middle. We picked to get line 23, the overlay. That's the number we want. So at $1 million from undesignated surplus, we would have a mill rate of 0.1372 per thousand. And I think that's too low. What I'm saying is I think we're taking a tad much out of the undesignated surplus. And the only reason is because next year, if we have to readjust, to go back up to 1430, 1440, something like that, it's a bigger jump, obviously, from 1372. This is where your decisions come in, whatever you want to do. Go to the next page. So we gave you the next page, the same scenario. The only difference is this time we only took 950,000 from the undesignated surplus. If we do that, that makes the percent at 6.33%, 6.30%. Your mill rate would Then with 350,000, 353,000 the overlay, the mill rate would jump to 0.01390. So you'd be dropping your mill rate 50 cents this year. If it went up next year, and I can't predict whether it goes up next year or goes down. I don't have any of those things. The next one would, and then it just goes down from there. The next one is 900,000. And we're able to keep it at 1390. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 900,000. And then 850 at 1395 and so on. So all I wanted to do was give you the options to look at the numbers. The last one is if you decided to only take 800,000 and reduce your overlay by 258, the overlay, Melissa, is what we use to pay for abatements and other costs. Any unused money in the overlay goes back into the undesignated surplus. So why is it that we can have a $900,000 increase in the expense line, but still drop the mill rate? Because we have a huge new valuation that's coming in. We have anticipated up to possibly 15 million of new valuation. If we only had a $1 million new valuation, then the mill rate would be a lot higher. The taxes wouldn't be coming, there'd be more money have to be funded out of the taxpayers. So that's the paper I gave you. Now you can hit me there.
No, now I understand why you did it.
So the mill rates are all hypothetical. But in August, you're gonna have to decide as the Board of Assessors what to set. What I'm showing you right now, if Verna's right on her numbers, even with a 5.6, which sounds bad, but in reality, the mill rate's gonna drop because of new valuation we have. So where's the big new valuation? Where did it come from? The pipeline's going on here, online this year. That's what's happened. That's one of the big ones. So you can take $1 million out of the undesignated surplus. And you'll be asking the taxpayers for 5.69. You could go more. You could go $1.2 million, you could go $1.5 million. It's whatever you want to do. But at the bare minimum, even at 800,000, you're gonna be dropping the mill rate down to 13.95. So questions?
I am never a fan of robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we all do it. And with taking the money out of the undesignated fund, the only thing that concerns me with doing the $1 million is, you had mentioned, Tim, at the last meeting that hopefully we won't have to pay out that $250,000 anytime soon, but I remember from, actually, I went to one of the forums on question 1 and 2, and Tim did say that the deal with the homeowners expired in December of 2023, and we would have to give them their money. So my concern is if we do the $1 million, that before the end of 2023, we're now going to be looking at a $1,250,000 out of the undesignated fund.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I would like to see us look at not taking as much out of the undesignated fund just because of that fact with what's coming in the future out of that fund. So if we can sit around the 800,000 coming out of the undesignated fund and still be okay, then I think that's something that we should consider.
I do think there will be, and I can't give you a number, I'll say it this way, that we do think that there'll be significant basis to think that projected revenue going back in, even at $1 million, will
400,000 easily, I would say.
Right, we're gonna be under what we normally take. We discussed that. We're not taking $1 million. We're taking $1 million, but when you pay it back in, we're probably taking 500,000 or 600,000.
correct. There's still money going back in. There's gonna be,
For sure.
there'll be more revenue going back in. We'll cover that 250. And probably like she said, another, this, so think of 400,000 going back in, so if we only took originally 700,000. But even if we took a million, like John said, we're gonna put it back, some of that back in now. As far as the land trust stuff, Tim's gonna come talk about that the next meeting. They're gonna raise all that money, all the money, not our portion of it.
Right,
They gotta raise all their money by the end of the year. So that's their position. If not, then that deal is dead.
I think there's still close to $2 million that they have to raise.
Yeah, they have to raise like, I think
It's
it's
a lot.
2 million. yeah.
It's, so the money isn't the thing, it's the mill rate. $1 million to this, to 850. It's not, the money doesn't bother me. We don't wanna drop the mill rate too much, because we don't want it to boomerang back next year if we have a problem.
Right.
So if we can keep the mill rate close to what it is, we're better off.
right, so, and then taking less out of the undesignated fund would do that, right?
Correct, so if we took 850 instead of $1 million, it would keep us at 1390, right?
Around that area.
1395-ish, somewhere around 14. We're better off doing that and
Absolutely.
keeping our mill rate close to being, then drop it 2 points where heroes this year, next year, they're gonna hate everybody.
Well, now, and
Exactly.
Right.
Incremental.
And remember, now there could be, there's an unknown here. The assessor said that the valuation, that she thinks that that's the minimum low side, she thinks. I'm hoping it's not, I'm hoping it's fairly accurate. But if something happens and she comes in at 18, 20 million new valuation, that's gonna plummet the mill rate.
Which is fantastic, because then you have a reason. Right,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but,
not.
but if we
what
don't get it
is.
next year. And we have another inflation crisis. Then that could have the potential to put the mill rate down to 1350, 1320. Which would be really helpful this year. But next year, if we have to bump it back up to 1420, people aren't gonna like that, because. The idea is we try to keep that mill rate as fiscally as best we can.
Which is what we've done over the past 8 budget seasons I've done, or 9 now. We've tried to keep it. If we drop it, it's very little, but we've tried to keep it stable, so people's taxes year to year don't go up and down. Nobody likes a surprise.
Right.
So I'd rather keep it close to what we have, take the 850, keep it close to what we have. And roll. My 2 cents. Because it doesn't make a difference whether it's 850 or 800 with the numbers, right?
Not really.
It really doesn't,
7.5%.
yeah, it doesn't really make a difference.
What hurdles do we have to achieve, right? The hurdle you're gonna have to achieve is. Discussing this at the town meeting won't make a difference. The people are gonna see the 7 at 850. They would see a 7.5% increase in the budget. See, they're only seeing the expense budget. That's all you're approving at the town meeting.
Right.
Is you're approving the expense budget. And again, people equate, oh my God, my taxes going up 7.5%? Nope. That's really not, we're just approving the expenses to run the town for next year. With all of it.
There's nobody that can come to the town meeting that's straight and reasonable and not expect us to go up with the way the economy is.
And 7.5% is 7.5% is the growth of the economy right now
You can't not.
in the last 12 months.
We talk a little bit about like the seniors and how that plays into like future thinking with the like freezing taxes and what we can expect kind of moving forward.
It doesn't.
Doesn't, okay.
It doesn't. So
It
that's,
doesn't impact like the value.
well, it does.
Okay,
Absolutely.
It does, but that has nothing to do with that senior program. That's, this is.
It hasn't even passed yet either. right?
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Yes, we're waiting to hear. But so hypothetically, let's say that you now signed up for the senior program and you decide you
Easy.
qualify. And let's say that her taxes are 6,000 this year, and next year they're gonna be 5,100. So she applies, and the program will go in under her 5,100. Then she says, well, that's good, now my taxes are frozen every year at 5,100 there. They went down, they got lower. And now she builds a 2-car garage. We, by law right now, because they haven't figured it out, how do we capture that new growth?
Okay.
Plus, I'm gonna
Yeah.
build an in-law apartment over that garage.
So we see it, like potentially, I know this is like, but will we see it in like state, I mean, it's like the revenue, would it be coming in the state line or like how do we anticipate?
They haven't
No,
told us yet.
okay.
Our
They haven't,
software
they
can't
haven't
even-
given us a,
Okay,
they haven't given us a single idea on how they're paying it back, what they're gonna call it, how they're gonna do it, how they're gonna calculate it.
And then the word may is in there, may pay back.
Yeah,
So
may,
it's
it doesn't
not
say they
guaranteed
will.
either.
If the state runs short on money, they could just say, oh, just like school funding. Well, we said may. And then what? And then we're in some kind of a evil conundrum. So that's, hopefully they'll work, hopefully with our state representatives going forward, they'll work all this stuff out, but. And again, this sheet right here that you've got in front of you, this calculation sheet. This is all hypothetical. These are just imaginary numbers that we plugged in. I can't tell you, don't simply be for gospel. These are not, these. I'm looking, I'm looking in my crystal ball. That's all I'm telling you.
All you can do at this point.
yeah,
Though we have touched every basis, we've touched everything from banking and interest banking to the state treasurer's office to. You know, talking to the managers, to other towns around us, everybody's in the same position we're, everybody's trying to figure it out, everybody's wondering. What's, you know,
Who knows?
we're in
Not
the
gonna
same.
get better.
So, you know, if at town meeting, someone says, well, gee, 7.5%. Geez, that seems like a lot. Well, no, that's interest this year, number one. That's what you know, that's the economy going up. Number two, the increase is, there are some, you know, we had to pay the salary increases. We had a couple positions that needed to be done because the state's given us more roads.
It's all justifiable, Tim. It's
It
all,
is.
it's all sellable. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
In all honesty, there's nothing here that I don't think we can't speak to the town and lay it out. There's absolutely nothing here that's fluff, that's added,
No,
nothing.
and in the end, you know, I had to make sure that we did the. You know, we were waiting to hear back from the other towns around us on what they were paying. You know, and, you know. I would be remiss if I told you that we have some of the lowest paid transfer station people in the region. And putting them up a dollar is not gonna make a huge difference, but makes them feel, probably make them feel better.
And again, pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on a dollar. You know?
I'm feeling like that 850 looking pretty,
There isn't a reason not to go with 850, honestly, right now, the way you have it projected out.
Right.
Which we're back to, nobody's gonna blink an eye because
Right.
they always yell at us because we don't take more. So
And,
it's an
and,
easy sell on undesignated.
right,
Yeah, that's true.
and we'll have, I mean, we'll have these numbers ready when the time comes, and if. Some reason, somebody wants to do something more than change the motion on the floor, well.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm just trying to avoid, I don't wanna. Drop the mill rate with a crash. Cause then next year, if inflation's still up and things are still moving forward. We'll have to, and we don't have a big, that, you know, there's not another gas line going online next year. So if I don't have all that valuation money. That means it's gonna bump back up.
Yeah, it makes no sense though. You're not gonna save anything. Everybody's still gonna pay.
All right,
The taxes are still going up.
you said the pipeline was 15 million?
what's
The
that?
valuation of what they
Valuation.
put in, yeah.
So, yeah, I feel better with, I was good with the million, but I'm scared of the million. I feel a lot better with the 850.
Well, I don't, here's the thing,
The million still isn't a million. That's
Right.
That's what we gotta wrap our hands around.
Right.
It's still not a million. It's probably 600,000.
but I just, for the most part, I wanted to make sure that we protected the council from anybody saying you're overspending or trying to overspend.
Right.
So this way here, you know, we never run these numbers, present these numbers as facts this time, yeah, I can't.
Mm-mm.
But, you know, we worked hard to try to get them as close as we thought we could. With all the variables in the bowl. To give you as much fact and information as we think we can get as close as we can. And that's where we're at.
We're actually cutting. I mean, we're not overspending. We cut stuff. We asked to look at stuff. We cut some stuff. We're not giving everybody what they want. There's no curbside pickup. There's no heated sidewalks. And there's no magic elevators to get over traffic. We're not giving everybody what they want.
True.
We're giving them bare minimum services and keeping our people. That's all we're doing.
And the taxi we're doing, no matter how you say or do with what you want, this, the municipal appropriation of $9,256,455 is an investment in your community. It pays for the good roads, pays for the sidewalks today that were there the day after the storm. It pays for, so that we keep the dump trucks on the roads. We have the good employees to fix them, that, you know, and like we said, you know, next year, if we cut 90,000 for the ambulance and the 262 for the roads, we're just gonna pay it back next year, and then it's gonna be that much more next year.
Yeah, so we can't lose the roads. We took a $4 million bond. We can't lose the roads. That would make no sense at all.
Yeah.
None. And the ambulance is what it is. You gotta have an ambulance.
So yesterday, yesterday evening around 4 o'clock, the sidewalk machine was going up and down Lower Main Street. And that was the public works director doing the sidewalks, because the sidewalks kid quit and he's gone, so Jay took it upon himself to do the sidewalks. You know, we have good employees. They'll get the job done. Jay stayed, made sure the sidewalks were all plowed late at night.
I don't know why he just didn't call me for the ride along. I would have totally done it. I was probably still out just with myself.
Can't double dip for the town you already work. You can't have another job, just in case you wondered.
Mallory made cookies, by the way.
Oh, gee.
You're gonna pass them out.
Yeah.
You know, so I just wanted to give you more information and options today based on what we had. I'll answer any questions, anything, you know, myself and Jen, again, I want to thank Jen for her hundreds of hours work on this, vetting every number I could think of in my head.
He asked me today, what did you go up on the budget last year? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, that is not what's in my brain right now.
We've worked every equation, every number, every question, every thought. You know, we're here, this is where there's nothing else I can squeeze out of this one way or the other. If there are any more cuts, the cuts will come in cut services, you know.
I say, there's no cuts to be made unless you take something away. You can't. What do you want to take away? One less person at the transfer station, one less officer on the street, one less town employee doing sidewalks and roads, and there's nothing you can do.
Jeff, did you have any other questions? You kind of missed it.
Where's the raise rate? Are we at
8.7.
at the 8.7?
Yeah.
So it takes care of. This gets. Additional, it gets people up to speed where they should be. 8.7 gets them kind of okay with current inflation rate stuff.
Right, 8.7 gets them up to the current market value and, or to the current inflation value, and it gets them to the market value compared to other employees.
And that's all included and you're included.
Correct.
Okay, that was where I was feeling like was left out from last week. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear that was all taken care of. I agree. It's like after looking at it. $50,000 is a lot to my household, but not when you're talking about over 9 million, you know.
Right, so, you know, to give you an idea of the 50,000 or the $49,000. In order to affect a dollar change in a mill rate, at a $9 million budget, we'd have to have $900,000 reduction. To affect a dollar change in a mill rate. So above all else. You know, so when you talk about 49,000 off a $9 million municipal budget. You know, and I've had people come in before and say, well, I wanna cut, you know, I had a guy come in last year and he said, well, I wanna make some cuts. I said, okay, let's make some cuts. I said, in order for me to do $1 on the mill rate, this is what we have to find. I said, so let's cut. I said, how about if we just eliminate transfer station? That's 300,000. We're only halfway there. Well, what do we do with the trash? You tell me. I said, how about the highway department? Why don't we just eliminate it? Well, how would we plow the roads? You tell me. Even if we had contract for service, as
Different.
Melissa knows, you know, if I have a contract with you, you're not gonna do it for free. It's gonna be a lot of money. You gotta pay for the same amount of dump trucks to get the roads done. And when I was finally done, he's like, well, never mind. That's right, never mind. Because cutting one person at the transfer station, one cop off the road, or one janitor out of the building, you don't see it. It's not enough to affect a change. What you see is a change in service. You come to the, you know, the toilet rolls empty, or the toilets are dirty, or the transfer station's backed up, because we lost services. That's what you see.
No, I feel good with that. You guys spell it out really well. I appreciate the number of times you spell it out, you know, it's one little number doesn't just mean one little number change, it changes a lot, so I appreciate the way that you guys do it, so thank you.
Melissa, you got anything? You're fairly new. I know there's a lot to look at, but this municipal tax calculation thing. We have to do that every year after you do after the board of assessors votes. This is what we have to fill out and send to the state to certify the town. And we have to make sure those numbers are right, so forth, and set the mill rate, and then we send it to the state so they can know what we're doing.
That could be an extremely long meeting some days.
Well, let's hope not.
We'll try and make it simple.
We could go round and round on one line.
Absolutely.
I think my only question as a new counselor is all of this material public record? Like if a constituent said, I want to see, like, are they just shown like the summaries, or if can they say, I want to see the itemized,
No, they can.
like
see
the
that.
town report,
So,
the town?
As
Okay,
soon as we make a decision here tonight, my next thing will be to make a final draft. And that gets put out in the town hall, it's on the pick for pickup, it's online, all of the departments, just the way we presented them the first night
okay,
with the final number, so they get all line items. And then when we go to the annual report, it is just the summary page, like this, for the revenue and the expenses.
You won't see that tax sheet that's on top right now because it doesn't exist.
You will never see that again.
no. I just didn't,
None of that is written.
I just
Yeah.
didn't know, as far as like HR was concerned, if salaries and stuff was,
No, that's all public information.
Okay.
Salary is public information.
okay, good to know.
So under the HR policies, the only thing that's not is disciplinary action issues.
Okay.
And personnel investigations and personnel actions.
Gotcha,
So those things are pretty confidential,
absolutely.
but what I have right now, someone could come in and look at this and I could say to them, this is great, but let's change. If the banking crisis in America goes south tomorrow, this is all gonna change on us. If Vernos comes in and says, my valuation numbers, or I moved the decimal point, everything's wrong, there's only $1 million in the valuation. This is all changing tomorrow. There's 100,000 variables right now till we get to, you know, so then you vote on this, you vote on the expense budget itself. At the meeting in April, first meeting in April, I'll ask you to confirm that number, and you're confirming the department numbers, that's what you're, not line items, because we don't vote on that, we vote on baseline budgeting.
Right,
So you approve that, you approve the expenditure budget, then the next meeting, we send that, because you're voting on the baseline, which is only what the taxpayers voting on. We send that in the town report, we get that published, that comes back, then we get it ready to publish that whole thing, but if someone comes in and says, can I get a hard copy of the budget with all the numbers? Yeah, absolutely. Once you guys finally, yeah, it's public information. Yeah, they can see everything, they can look at our warrants, they can look at our bills, they can.
How I looked up Big A's director last week when we had the question on what Big A got paid. It's all, you can Google Self-Burp right now and find out pretty much what everybody's making.
I did include for the town council like newsletter blurb this month. It was just a copy from, I think somebody had drafted it in the town, saying what the process was. You meet with the department heads in January, we do our thing in March, so on and so forth. So there's some like public outreach just to get people to pay attention.
Nobody will show up until the town meeting, and then it'll be about 17 people.
We had a good-
Two people will speak. And we'll.
Last year,
that's
Yeah, we
there was
had a
a
good
year.
response last year, yeah.
We had,
There was a presentation last year. Remember they all left after the presentation? We never get a lot of people in town. $9 million budget.
I-
Anybody in public?
Yeah, well, and to be honest with you, you know, whether you like it or not, and I'll just say it again. A lot of towns have have gone from an open floor town meeting. To a secret ballot town meeting where every warrant question is by secret ballot. Because, and then we did it in Harrison, did it in Rangeley, did it in Jay, did it in Skowhegan, and. The one of the things is, so you take that, right? And then I'm not advocating to do that here, I'm just telling you. Is what we found is, the elderly people won't come out to the town meeting. They don't come. It's too difficult to come after dinner and come in an evening, I don't care. Even if they could come, they're not gonna go sit on hard bleachers or hard chairs for 2 hours and listen to someone. So this way here, by secret ballot, they can get an absentee ballot, they can fill it out at the kitchen table, they can send it in, and it all can be counted. And in other towns where we had 15, 20, 14, 36, 44 people at town meetings. We went from that to up to 350 to 500 people voting by secret ballot. So you had a much better presentation of the community by secret ballot, because people could get absentee ballots and just send them back. Just, that's one of the things. But anyway, you're right about the numbers.
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time we've had big ones, police station. If we have a presentation for
Sure.
Spirit Award or fire department or whatever, it's usually the same people that speak. Cliff always speaks. Steinhauer's always speak. Someone's got a question. But
And last year, everything got answered. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody, you know, and you know, we're fully transparent.
I'd say it's all clear.
I mean, I can explain everything to everybody. I got nothing to hide. I love to talk taxes about the people because the general public never understands taxes. They don't understand.
There's a lot of moving pieces to it.
Right, but what I can tell you is, I do know this, that taxes are an investment in our people, and a lot of our surrounding towns, when I talked to the town managers, they said, whatever it is you're doing, can you send some of it our way, because we can't keep staff. And I'm fortunate, we're very, very fortunate that we're keeping our staff. And I am blessed with that. We are, as a town, blessed with that.
Everybody's short.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking.
You know, so. That's all I have, unless you guys got any questions for us, is there anything else you?
All right.
So what's the next step? Now you go, sorry, I was paying attention. I
Nope, that's
just
okay.
got lost in translation a little
So
bit.
is everybody in agreement at the $850,000 from undesignated?
Do we need to touch base with Mallory or?
No,
I will tomorrow. I talked to her on the
Big
phone,
picture, there's 4 of us. So
Okay.
no, that's
Okay.
why there's 5.
but I talked to her on the phone today, and she was kind of. In agreement, I don't want to speak for her, but she was, I talked to her, I gave her all this rundown. And I'll call her tomorrow, but she's worried about same things that John, you folks are. She doesn't want to drop the mill rate too far in case we have to bounce it back next year. So she was, I think, you know, I'll talk to her tomorrow, but she'll have an opportunity to. When we get back together, you guys will still have to vote on it, because you can't vote because it's a workshop.
So what I'll do is I'll take these numbers, do a final draft, a whole packet again, all the way through from revenue,
Get you all updated.
the TIF, the whole kit and caboodle one more time with these final numbers. And then you'll put that to a vote and accept that as your budget,
Right.
and then we'll put it out to the public. And then that will be what we go to town meeting with.
Right, so, yeah, I think it's first meeting in April, we'll have public, schedule a public hearing. And the public can come in and talk to you about it, and, you know, see if there's any questions or anything, then from the public hearing that night, there'll be a warrant to vote to approve that number for the warrant as it's written. So all that stuff gets listed as the warrant, and then we print the town report, and then the only other time it can change after that, because now it's approved as a council budget. It now has to be approved by the legislative body budget. So that's on May 18th, I think, with town meeting. And then whatever they vote on is what it is.
No, just so I'm clear, when I look at all of these, you had the 17, line 17 and 18.
Yeah.
On all of these, the range, the min and max, the max. Potential mill rate based off this number on all of these is still lower than what we currently are set at.
Mhm.
Yes,
And that's what ends up being actually a major problem for what we're looking at, because the mill rate's going to be lower than what it was.
Which is, it's a good thing.
That, we're right,
Right.
except for next year, if it's, we have to refound something,
Right,
right? That's
right.
the thing.
So what would be better is if we could take $8 million this year for new valuation, spread it out, 8 million next year, 8 million in year 3, because that would be, but because the valuation's never always the same, right? And the problem is when you, it's good, but it's also bad when you have something big come in one shot,
Right,
like the pipeline. Because this year it's 15 million maybe, but the problem will be is what happens if Verona finds an extra 3 or 4 million?
right, right. And it's a,
Then
we say it's a
then we're gonna
problem,
be, then we're gonna have to drop the mill rate further.
and we're saying it's a problem from our perspective as counselors for the sake of. If it bounces back in a couple of years, it's gonna be a sticker shock, basically.
Right, because,
It's not a couple, it could bounce back next year. If
Right.
we drop it too low this year, you know it's gonna go up next year, 'cause
Right.
we're not gonna have that 15 million.
right, because what the taxpayer can't see sitting here that you're getting, that I'm giving you, is the vision of tomorrow, right?
Right,
So you can't just consider the expense budget today. You gotta consider next year's expense budget, right? How much is that gonna go up? How much will inflation be? How much do we have to give the employees for raises next year? Because we're running almost $1 billion corporation. I think you think it'll be over $1 billion this year, evaluation?
Yeah, that pink number is.
That's over $1 billion, so that, you're the board of $1 billion corporation, right? And so suddenly we're being infused with $15 million of new money. That's good, but if we're not gonna have that 15 million next year.
Right.
Right, so we look at, you folks look at, you 5 folks look at, not only today, hopefully you're with me looking at next year and presumably the year after. The taxpayer is only looking at
Right now.
today.
Mhm.
And our job is to make sure that we plan for today, tomorrow, next year, and hopefully the year after. And try to, like you say, John, try to keep it fairly close and not do the big spikes. And, so that's our job. That's what the taxpayer doesn't have. They don't understand you're looking out for the next 2 years, not just today. We're talking 2 years in the future. And it's hard to do municipal budgeting 2 years in the future, but we're gonna do it.
okay. Yeah, the 850. Well, I like, yeah.
I have a quick comment about the town report, just, I think in previous years, there were report outs from the different departments, or I was looking at the 2021 version, it had things like from Common Ground and the
Mhm.
Cemetery Association. I'm not sure if that's something that's hard to operationally get, but I think it's like nice to have.
No,
We
we're
almost
reaching
got them all already.
we're working on that already, yeah. We'll get that.
Thank you.
We'll get as many as we can.
If you think we're missing someone. let me know.
Yeah, and a lot, if we're missing someone, choose because that we hounded them and they didn't turn it in.
I have
Any
one
other-
question about, maybe not for now, but the town meeting. I understand now how we work through our whole thing, and that last question always seems to get everybody all messed up, and I think it's just because of the wording.
It is,
And it's just a
but it has to
coverage.
be there.
Exactly, and there's
Exactly.
nothing other than
The LD one.
education that we need to do for people, for the 17 people that show up.
Correct, to vote no. Yes,
Exactly.
and we even
It's the
explain.
Valuation, right?
It's the LD one. Basically, are we asking the residents to allow us to go over LD one? No, you don't want, we're not allowing us to go over LD one. We're still coming in over 1 million under LD one. That's our threshold of how much we can increase our budget. So we don't need them to approve that because we're not there.
All right.
Right.
But it's very confusing, you're right.
It is, and when we were sitting up there last year, I saw literally like 6 people eye contact. What are we supposed to do here, because we were asking. the
That's
same-
right, and there's a street version of it and there's a book version. The book version, your head will spin around, and fall off. The street version, very simply, is that back in the 80s, the state set a maximum tax increase rate, almost like Proposition 2.5 out of California, you remember that? That how they, and years ago, they passed what they call Proposition 2.5, the taxes couldn't go any higher than 2.5% in the state of California at any given time. They didn't have any weight over it, so the state of Maine wanted to pass one, so they passed it. And they said it's 1% growth more than your new valuation. Projected new valuation. So that's what it is. And they're talking about doing away with it this year, because nobody follows that anymore. No one, in the eighties, mid-80s and nineties, budgets were out of control, people were just ramping spending. Nobody does that today. That's what they called me and talked to me about it. I had a couple people from the state treasurer's office call, a couple representatives. I said, nobody does that. Everybody tries to control their budget. People are frugal. And you know, have you been to department head meetings? What do I tell them? Count your pennies and your change. Don't go over your budget. Watch this, do this. We're all being frugal today. But what it is just the number. The state says if you get up to this number. But to get up to that number, we would have to have a $2 million expense increase in the budget. That would be,
1.7.
yeah. So that we'd have to be building a new school, building a new something
Town
like,
hall, something catastrophic.
yeah, something to get there. And so all we're saying to the taxpayers, what that law says is very simply that does, you know, we're not, if we were to spend more than this, they would have to approve that. But we're spending less than this, so they just need to vote no on.
Tom does a pretty good job explaining it, but it still
He does.
catches people, but.
Yeah.
He does a pretty good job for the newbies explaining it.
We need to vote no on this one. Does everybody understand?
We vote yes.
We're all just sitting there like.
They don't know why.
Right,
but
exactly.
they don't-
And that's the unfortunate part of this. The state, lots of these state regulations, just like this LD 290 for the elderly. It comes down to us and we just gotta make it work. We gotta try to figure it out. The onus is on us to make it work, you know?
It's another burden on the town, no one's gonna pay for it. Well, we are, but
And
Well, that's the whole town meeting. We need assessing help. Because Verna can't get out and do her evaluation because she's gonna do those applications. She's
And our
all by
software
herself in her office.
can't handle it yet, because Trio hasn't made any updates because it hasn't been approved yet. So that'll be interesting when and if that all does happen, how quickly our software will turn around and update.
It won't.
It's gonna
Okay,
have
so
to.
we'll make a draft and get that to. Meeting.
all right.
One final,
Yeah.
just general budget question, hypothetical, looking into the crystal ball.
No, please,
When the fiscal year is complete and we find that we have come under budget, which I know we're gonna from last year.
Yeah.
That surplus goes back into the undisclosed fund and
Undesignated.
that, yeah, the
Yeah, You're right
undisclosed,
there.
sorry, Rob. Clue and cream, no, and so that will not affect our the budget that we're working on, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we won't know that exact number until after the audit, which is finalized in
All right,
December.
we have,
Oh,
we have a guesstimation. She'll be able to look at it and say, I think I get this much left in the bank, because the auditor has to come in. Audit the budget, and then say that that's the final number that he determines based on the information.
Which is why we never take $700,000 on the undesignated, ever.
Undisclosed.
We've never taken that number since I've been here,
No,
because we always return money.
Oh, right.
A couple
yes.
years ago, we had a boom in new car sales for some reason, and we really,
During COVID,
Yes.
everybody bought a new car.
yes,
Isn't it the greatest thing?
yes, it was, but. it
Tried to.
so
It helped us out.
hypothetically,
yes,
just hypothetically, let's say that we shouldn't, but let's say we underspent the budget by 100,000, right? And then let's say we got 200,000 from state revenue sharing additional, right? There's 300,000 right there. Then let's say that we ended up not spending the overlay, there's another 200,000. So right there is 500,000 back into the. under the-
Last year, we put almost $1 million.
From different revenue. So,
okay,
How many more years do we have, Peter?
Yeah, the $1 million.
We signed a contract for 2 more fiscal years.
That's an eye.
Locked in for that.
okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
We don't really speak. And it's
And just so you know, we have,
going up so.
I have told the staff, we have told the staff, there was a review that we were at the meeting the other day, that the council has been very supportive, and don't for a second not think the staff and the employees are very appreciative to know that you guys are supporting them.
I noticed that by how he filled my driveway with snow.
I lost a mailbox, just kidding.
I'd rather lose a mailbox than